everybody.
Hi, friends. Well, from beautiful, if a little bit rainy, Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
the podcast.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up on the show today, Dan, Mormons kind of like that Joseph Smith guy.
Oh, yes. Their founder, their prophet, seer, and revelator. He who spoke face to face with God.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
Oof. Yeah, that's quite the claim. And, that's something to get worked up about if it's true. Right?
Yeah. And here's the thing. This weekend is Mormon General Conference. And every now and then we talk about that because it's a terrible thing that happens. But we've talked about, I'm going to play some audio of a Mormon leader. This isn't from General Conference, but you guys need to hear what happens when these people talk. Anyway, we got a lot to talk about.
We'll get to that.
Trust me, you're going to like it.
That's more than just a tease, Dan. I was like, is he really going to play the audio now?
I'm going to do it whenever I want.
Well, first we've got some stories to do from the week, news of the week. Dan.
Yes.
We're always watching the numbers of us non-believers here in the United States and sort of stand back and go, wow, we're really something, aren't we? We just keep growing in numbers.
There are more of us now than there were when you and I started our journey.
Yeah, and it makes us feel special and proud and not alone, right? Well, the Netherlands, a report has come out from their Institute for Social Research.
Okay.
The SCP. Those letters aren't going to line up with that because they
speak
Dutch.
some other weird language.
But it's the SCP. They've released numbers about atheists in the Netherlands.
Okay.
And for the very first time.
So wait, we're not talking about nuns. We're talking strict atheists.
Atheists and agnostics.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But for the very first time, there are more of those than there are of believers.
Nice.
You go, Netherlands.
That's amazing.
Wow. This is the numbers have doubled since they first started looking at these, statistics back in the 60s and 70s. And some interesting things that they mention in the report is they found that atheists and agnostics are less interested in looking for the meaning of life, instead searching for meaning in their own lives.
Yeah.
So this is directly from the report. It says developing yourself, taking care of others, having intense experiences, and knowing you are part of a greater whole are examples of how they give meaning to their lives. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, because the concept of life having just a meaning, like the meaning of life, that concept is a nonsensical concept on its face. It doesn't make any sense.
Right, exactly.
The only meaning you can have is whatever means something to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The numbers are a little different than, the numbers have progressed, I guess, since a survey that was conducted in 2015 by Ipsos, which showed, so this is just 7 years ago, showed 25% of Dutch people were atheists. But that's
25?
atheists. That's atheists.
Okay.
17% believed in the existence of a God.
Oh.
And 60% were agnostic or wavering in their beliefs. So
that's not very useful.
No, it's not. But so they
Let's put
found
everybody
that
that
17%.
into a
I know, but think about that for a second. So they found only 17% of people believe in the existence of God in that one.
Well, there you go.
But as a group, atheists and agnostics, at that point, I guess they didn't have numbers, or they didn't outnumber everybody else. I love it.
Whenever I think about it, so if you ever look at it, they do. We've talked about it on the show, but they do a happiness report on different on countries.
Yeah, it just came out again. Did you see it?
And yeah, I did. And it's always like the Nordic countries are always killing it.
Yeah.
Finland's always up there.
It's number one this time. Yeah.
Sweden, Norway.
Yeah.
The Netherlands, and I think the deal is when everybody feels safe and comfortable and enfranchised in society, they kind of don't there's no need for a God anymore. They're just like, oh, I wonder if that's actually even true.
Yeah.
When you're in the muck and the mire and you're kind of like, it's treading water to try and keep your head above water. You're not going to be asking the existential questions.
Yeah.
You're just you're going to have somebody to pray to. That sounds pretty good.
Right.
And
that's interesting. I mean, obviously it's just correlation, Dan, but
I'm not saying it's causation. You're right.
No, definitely where I'm going, right, is definitely a big correlation. Which is some of the numbers this time in that happiness report. It was really interesting. The United States sort of has ticked up a few spots and are we're statistically tied with Canada right now for happiness, which, we've historically been more miserable than the Canadians in so many ways.
I'll bet we brought them down. I don't think we climbed at all. We just pulled them down.
However we were on the same level, however that happened, we did go up a few.
Interesting.
And I mean, it's worth noting, we also have a rise of non-belief in this country.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also people not going to church in much, whether or not they believe, they're not going to church in much larger numbers. And that's going to make anybody feel better about themselves.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Look, correlation is not causation, but it does feel like both things also cause the other thing. So not going to church causes you to be happier, and being happier causes you not to go to church. Both things, it works. It's the reciprocal property of dropping religion. Anyway, that's happy news. I'm just going to be all kinds of shit news.
I got us off to a good start, Dan.
We talked about Florida's Don't Say Gay bill, which was a bill designed to make sure that educators don't accidentally let kids know that gay people and trans people exist in the world. Because that would be the worst that you could imagine. And of course, their neighbors decided to jump on the bandwagon. So just a week after Florida passed theirs, Louisiana jumped into the thing.
Oh.
And the woman who introduced the bill took it even further. Made sure that her bill, it's very simple. I read the whole bill. It's a 2-pager. It's nothing. It's very easy. And all it says is that no teacher is allowed to cover the topics of sexual orientation or gender identity in any classroom discussion or instruction in kindergarten through grade 8. And no teacher, school employee, or other presenter shall discuss his sexual orientation, not his or her. I guess where they haven't gotten to the point where they're mad about people in gender discussions, but everybody can be a he, apparently.
Right. No, it turns out they're okay with lesbians.
Right?
In Louisiana. Yeah, they're fine.
No teacher shall discuss his own sexual orientation or gender identity with students in kindergarten through grade 12.
Well, that had better not be a double standard.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
It says no teacher. Do they think that sexual orientation is only gay?
Right?
They're only talking about gay people? The only gay people have a sexual orientation?
This was my thought. My thinking is, if you are in Louisiana and this shit bill passes, wait for it to take effect and then have your kids go in and ask their straight teachers about their partners.
Yeah.
And when they're straight teachers gleefully tell them about their husband and or wife and or boyfriend and or girlfriend.
They're opposite
Sue
sex.
the fucking school district.
Yeah.
And sue the shit out of them.
Yeah. Well, they'll just be like, well, everybody knows we weren't talking about the straight teachers.
Right. Well, it's literally just to invalidate the law.
No, I know. Yeah.
But this one was interesting because it has the added twist of the woman who introduced the bill, one Louisiana State, Dodie Horton, great name. Dodie literally said that she was praying about how she could protect the children. Oh, somebody protect the children from a conversation about something normal.
Oh, no.
Well, she was protecting the children from inappropriate conversations. That's literally how she put it. And then she said, I talked to my pastor, and he challenged me and said, we definitely need to do this. So good to know that religion is writing the laws now.
So good.
Yeah.
We
can all be very happy about that.
Yeah. Well, Dan.
Yes.
We mentioned that Mormon General Conference is coming up.
We did mention that.
While this is not specifically a General Conference story, I bet there will be something. I'm predicting there will be something in this General Conference about Heavenly Mother.
Oh.
Because the Tribune, the Salt Lake Tribune, just ran a story.
That's the liberal paper.
Citing one Mr. Apostle Dale Renlund. I don't know these names anymore, Dan.
No, I don't know them either.
Doesn't it feel good that you don't know who these people are? This guy's an apostle. I have no idea who he is. Anyway, he came out with a statement, or there was a video of him this last week or recently that's been circulating around on social media, where he's talking about how we need to be careful about talking about Heavenly Mother. Now, let's back up a little bit for all of our listeners who are like, Heavenly Mother? Mormons, what are you talking about? Mormons, since like the earliest days, have a concept of a Heavenly Mother to go along with Heavenly Father, because like, who does he fuck in heaven? Right?
You gotta have a there
has to
if
be.
There's no fuck.
There's no
then
spirit
what's the point
children.
of heaven?
Yeah, and there's no spirit children. And so where do we all come from? Well, we have to come from both a Heavenly Father and a Heavenly Mother who procreate in heaven spirit babies. This is Mormon. This is not way out there shit. This is Mormon doctrine, right?
Yeah.
It may not be spelled out perfectly such in Mormon scripture, but it is not a hard leap, right? Any of this stuff. Anyway, so in the early days, you have this woman by the name of Eliza Snow, who was something of a radical, if you ask me. You ask a lot of people. But she was like wasn't she one of Brigham Young's wives?
She was one of Joseph Smith's wives first, and then one of Brigham Young's wives afterwards.
I forgot about that. Anyway, she was also like a women's leader, right? It wasn't.
Yeah. She was a big figure in
and she was something of a poet, and she wrote some hymns and that kind of stuff. But she wrote this poem titled Invocation, or The Eternal Father and Mother. And in it, there's the line, in the heavens are parents single? No, the thought makes reason stare. Truth is reason, truth eternal, tells me I've a mother there. Right? Well, it's sort of always just kind of percolated on, around this idea of a Heavenly Mother and whatnot. But recently, last decade or so, it's really started to gain some serious traction. And Mormons are asking more and more questions about Heavenly Mother. Yeah. And this apostles, he comes out and he's like, if we had more information, it wouldn't be a bad thing. But the prophet, he says that the prophet is constrained, essentially, not to come up with new doctrine.
What?
About this for some reason, right?
Right.
But he's very specific about that we should not be that Mormons should not be praying to Heavenly Mother. I think it's fascinating that they have to say it. I find it fascinating that they're having to try to control this.
Well, because it's become a rallying cry of sort of feminist Mormonism.
Yeah.
And they are desperate to put down the woman's rebellion.
Yeah. But they've done things like they let the young women's oath or whatnot. They had a wording change. It used to be say that we are daughters of our Heavenly Father or something like that. And now it says we are daughters of our heavenly parents.
Yeah, there you go.
And so they
were hoping that would be enough.
they didn't realize that all they're doing is
feeding the fire.
Yeah, feeding it. It is interesting.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Mormons are I think a lot of Mormons want this, and I don't think it's just the radical feminists. I think in particular, even like your mainstream Mormon women, they want this. It includes them, and they don't understand how radical it is, right? They just know that it speaks to them, that it gives them more of a place, more of a role as women if there's a female deity that's also at the top of the church.
And we should mention, we should say that, like, I mean, I knew about Heavenly Mother growing up, but it was always spoken of like she was Voldemort. It was like this hush hush thing that like you didn't.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, we respect her so much that we don't ever talk about her or think about her or ask any questions about her.
Yeah, I remember that line. Yeah.
And it was all just clearly changed. Such bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. We'll see how what happens with the Mormons over the weekend. I'm going to take us now. I'm staying in the South. I'm moving from Louisiana to Mississippi, where a man named Robert Foster, a former Mississippi House lawmaker, and actually, I think he left the House to in a bid for the governorship. He ran for governor and came in like fourth among Republicans or something crazy like that.
Okay.
Did not do well.
Yeah, it's not good. Okay.
He recently had a tweet that was real cute. This was sent in to us by a listener, by the way. The tweet said, "Some of y'all still want to try and find political compromise with those that want to groom our school-aged children and pretend men are women, etc.
Oh boy.
I think they need to be lined up against a wall." Well, it says against wall, but I assume he means a wall. "Before a firing squad to be sent to an early judgment."
He's only aware of one wall. Oh, that's awful. What?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. No, here's
God.
the thing. I always look for insights into what these assholes are actually thinking is happening, or at least what fire they're actually trying to stoke. And it's very clear from this that the word grooming is the one that I latched onto, or groom, which is to say, he clearly thinks that what is happening is that the liberals are trying to train the children to be gay and trans. This is what they've constantly been worried about. And I think it's useful to mention that, like, that's where they're coming from. And that is the line that they're being fed constantly by right-wing media, that these people are coming and they are going to try to turn your children gay, and they're going to try and turn your children trans.
Yeah, your kids are already gay and trans.
Yeah, I got bad news for you, friends. Or good news. I got good news. Nothing that we can do will affect the gender identity or the sexuality of your children.
They just are. They are what they are.
Rest easy.
Wouldn't it be nice if some people helped them have a soft landing,
right?
As they start to accept things about themselves?
What if you just loved your kids? Yeah. What if that happened? Yep. However they are. What if you just love anyway? Obviously, that's not what this guy's about, and not what a lot of these people are about. This is the guy, by the way, who, when he was in when he was serving as a state representative, actually authored the state's current death penalty law. So
wow,
that's and
he loves death. He loves killing.
He loves a good murder.
Yeah.
He just if somebody
Especially
disagrees with him,
yep.
Why he's mad he can't just kill him.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he is. Calls for violence and oh boy.
Yeah.
These things they scare me deeply, like
it's just,
here's the guy who has a certain public notoriety. A certain amount of, he has a certain reach. How does he not know that it's such a dangerous thing to say? Right?
And he's not pussyfooting around. He's not metaphorical in any way. He's not speaking figuratively in any way.
Yeah.
He literally says, line them up against a wall before a firing squad.
Yeah.
It's unequivocal. They're saying the quiet parts out loud now.
Yeah.
They just feel completely empowered to do that.
Boy, oh boy. All right.
I wonder why Twitter hasn't
kicked him off,
taken him down.
It should.
He should be entirely deplatformed for that kind of shit.
Yeah. Well, here's a story about state-sanctioned death and murder.
Good.
The Supreme Court this week, Diane. They had a decision.
Of these United States?
The Supreme Court, Dan.
It's the supremest one of them all.
So there was this case in front of them where John Henry Ramirez, who he's been sentenced to die for the brutal stabbing of a convenience store clerk back in 2004. A horrible crime, right?
Indeed, undoubtedly.
And I am not for the death penalty. I think that people should just be locked up for the rest of their lives. That seems like the civilized thing to do. But it is legal in a lot of states in the United States. And so the Supreme Court had to get in on this case where he was asking for his minister to be able to touch his foot at the time of death and to say a few words out loud on his behalf, pleading, asking God to look after his soul or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Just a prayer.
Just a little prayer. A little prayer. It would probably bring the guy a little bit of comfort. And it's a brutal crime, but in a moment like that, with the state taking his life, I think he probably deserves some sort of human touch of some kind. Of course, that's not the point. He's not supposed to feel good, but he is dying. Let's face it.
If you're going to kill him, let him feel a little bit good. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like you're getting
your revenge.
You're taking literally everything.
Give him an ounce of comfort, but again, not the point of the death penalty. Let's just face it. But anyway, the Supreme Court has said now, they've ruled that while prisons do have and states have a compelling interest in protecting the ministers and sort of the situation and keeping everybody safe, they don't see a reason to keep the minister out as long as it's safe, and the state cannot. The state has to have a very compelling reason as to why it's not safe for them to keep the ministers out.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a gas chamber,
obviously
you wouldn't necessarily want him in there.
I would say the electric chair, probably.
Can we just
maybe the firing squad?
Depending on the minister, can we just make that their choice?
You know, at a certain point, as long as it's not going to disrupt the proceedings,
dude.
Why?
If you want to be in there with him, man, go ahead.
Yeah,
you go right on.
I mean, really, the only one that works for this would be like lethal injection,
right? Anything else? It's like, firing squad. Okay, well, let's just duck while you're up there.
They could get a little shield. They could make a little shield, and he could just like be behind the shield and just be touching his foot. Why not?
I was reading really about this story, and I read there was only one dissenting justice. It was 8-1.
Do you know who the dissenter was?
Yeah, it was Mr. Clarence Thomas.
Yeah,
he's in a load of trouble right now. No, nobody can do anything, but he's in a load of trouble. Anyway,
did you see what his reason was for dissent?
Yeah, please tell the people what his reason was, because it doesn't feel like, the job of the Supreme Court justice is to rule on matters of, the law.
Right.
But he seems to have a different reason.
Yeah, he says that Ramirez isn't really interested in prayer. He's using the legal system to delay execution. It isn't about religious liberty, he said, but gamesmanship.
Which to me is like, yeah, obviously he's trying to prolong things with lawsuits.
Yeah.
But the question before you is a legal question that you still have to rule on the question, not just be like, he's asking the question for a wrong reason. We shouldn't even talk to him. He's just trying to get out of detention.
Foul. I call foul. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, I can't tell you how much I hate Clarence Thomas. He is such a terrible, terrible Supreme Court justice.
And seemingly also a terrible person.
Yeah. Yeah, just a bad human in general.
Yeah.
And has been apparently since the 80s.
Probably before then. I'm going to guess. He didn't just like get on or sexually harass one person.
No. Yeah.
Right.
No, this was a pattern.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to close this out with some quasi good news.
What?
And that good news is that even though they are undoubtedly extremists, even the Taliban has their price.
Oh, okay.
So this is a story. If you'll recall, back before the big war where Americans went in and decided to save Afghanistan, and then
decided not to.
Stayed there for way, way, way too long, and then left and had fixed exactly nothing. Before that, the Taliban was in charge, and they made international headlines at one point by blowing up these huge statues of Buddha.
Yeah. They were sort of carved out of a rock face, right?
Yeah, they were these enormous, beautiful statues. They were World Heritage sites, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they just blew them up and said, these are pagan idols, and we're not having it. We're good Muslims, and we're only going to allow that sort of thing. Well, the Taliban's back in power, but here's the thing: there's a couple of ancient Buddha statues.
Oh. There more?
in a place called Mez Ainak Valley.
Okay.
That's south of Kabul.
Okay.
And they are, they're very, very old. I'm not even sure how old they are.
But that makes sense. But they're old.
They're very, very old.
I believe it.
And, yeah, sure. And they actually, the Taliban is going to protect them.
Really?
Isn't that nice?
That sounds really nice of them.
And you know why? Because the Chinese told them to.
Oh.
And do you know why that matters? Because the Chinese want to invest in mining operations in Afghanistan, and Chinese mining money it spends. So
yeah, okay.
So apparently the Taliban, even the Taliban, have their price when it comes to things, and so they are going to not blow up ancient artifacts
That are sort of that the
even
Chinese
though-
might be interested in.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
How are they going to fill their ancient artifact blowing up needs, though?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a totally valid question. They'll probably just invade some neighboring state at some point and blow up theirs.
First check with the Chinese.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. These ones we can blow up? Okay, cool.
Literally, apparently Afghanistan's mineral riches are estimated to be worth $1 trillion. So,
oh boy, this is
there's
just what we need. Oh God,
there's a
wealthy
there's a lot-
Taliban. That's what we need
Yeah,
in this world.
exactly.
Thanks, China.
Thanks, China.
If you can't see
That's
what's
awesome.
coming, thanks, China.
But in fairness, you won't believe how long your iPhone battery is going to last now. Going to be great.
Well, okay. I mean, if you put it that way.
Right? All right. Well, friends, if you have anything you'd like to say about this or any of our stories, please feel free to write into us, podcast at thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. Stick around. We've got more show coming up.
Hey, Frank.
Dan!
We've talked about our good friend and former White House advisor Lance Wallnow, or at least a guy who actually got to go to the Trump White House a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Which gave him a hell of a platform. Anyway, he's talking with a woman on his show about the Don't Say Gay bill, and we were talking about the Taliban earlier. He's got some stuff to say. He'll bring it all together.
The media's calling it the Don't Say Gay Act bill. And DeSantis called him out for it the other day. He really went after a reporter who talked about that. He said, no. We're talking about kindergarten to third grade. We need to be talking about that right now.
This is where you could push back and say these are the must-be gay activists.
Yeah.
You must convert. You must be gay.
Yeah.
You must accept it. You must embrace it. You must affirm it. You're not allowed to reject it. If you do, you should be deplatformed and all your money should be taken from you. That's a religion, folks.
Yeah.
That's as bad as the Taliban.
Yeah.
You got the trans Taliban.
The trans Taliban is coming for you, Frank.
Oh my God.
Everyone has to be gay now.
Must
Frank.
be gay. This is the must be gay crowd. Well, nobody wants that.
Listen.
Literally nobody wants that.
Lance Wallnow, I promise you, no man in this country wants you to be gay. It's just not true. I'm looking at an image of you right now, and not a single gay man wants you on their team. Anyway.
Oh, amazing.
Well, we had some folks write into us. I will read their missives. Do you remember, Frank, that we talked about? We sort of asked if any of our listeners had left church during the pandemic, had their unraveling during this pandemic, and we had a couple folks write into us.
Oh, nice.
So that's kind of cool. KG wrote in to say, "Hey, Frank and Dan, you said in your last podcast you wanted to hear from those of us who never went back to church after COVID, and I'm proud to be in that statistic. I was a former lifetime Christian, daughter of a preacher," oh, these preachers, kids, "and Christian university graduate." Oh, I'm sorry. I wonder if your degree actually means anything. Interestingly,
Dan.
Oh, I tease. Frank went to a Christian university too.
Yeah, but then I left.
And then you left, yeah. Interestingly, says KG, in the months before COVID, I was really struggling with my Christianity and asking questions because my kids were asking me questions, and I realized I had no good answers, such as, why did God kill Jesus and not just save us?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, from the mouths of babes, you know? Our megachurch was also really pushing giving to the point that I had friends writing massive checks to them. On March 8th, 2020, I was sitting in church as the pastor went on and on about giving, and I had this light bulb moment that I wasn't sure that any of this was true. I freaked out and wasn't sure what I was going to do because I never wanted to step in that church again, but my family is all there.
Wow.
Well, wouldn't you know it? God, or was it Satan, must have heard my cries because he started an entire worldwide pandemic, and the very next Sunday, everything, including churches, shut down, and I never had to go back.
So it's your fault. All right.
I love that.
Oh.
I used a lot of my pandemic downtime doing my own research, doing lots of reading and listening to podcasts, and well, I listen to a podcast called Thank God I'm Atheist each week, so obviously you know where my research led.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Ah,
I love that.
good
I love it.
stuff.
Heather also wrote into us. Hi, Frank and Dan. We were actively looking for a new church, a new church home in our new town before the pandemic hit. It was already a struggle for me because I distrusted churches and questioned religion. 2016 solidified that. For those of you outside of the country, that was when Trump was first elected. But the pandemic made me seriously question my belief in God. The absolute hypocrisy and blatant disregard of the truth, along with the lack of empathy for fellow humans, really turned me off to church. The 2016 election, the continued hyper-radicalization of conservative politics, and the life experiences made me turn away from all the things I had been taught in my small religious town.
Wow.
I grew up in a place with a church on every corner, and we identified ourselves by what neighborhood we lived in and what church we went to. I'm also a public school teacher, and I feel the demoralization of teachers by Republicans more and more. There you go.
Wow. All right.
I'm so grateful to these assholes for showing their true colors, because I think more and more people are having the same experience that KG and Heather have, and are turning and are like just having a light bulb moment where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
Maybe this is all just bullshit.
Well, and to be honest, like the more that the good people leave, it's just going to be the assholes left, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll alienate more and more people, hopefully, right?
And then hopefully they'll be right about their theology and God will rapture them away and we can just live without them for the rest of our lives.
Oh, I know. The rapture. That's good stuff.
That'd be great.
I would love it. Just get rid of them.
Look, we're all fantasizing about the same thing, you guys. We want you to leave too. All you evangelical Christians. We all want you to go. So let's root for that. Anyway, do we have some folks to thank?
We do indeed, Dan. We have 2 new patrons on Patreon.
Woo!
2 new deacons, in fact.
Woo!
We have Katrina and Renee.
Oh.
So thank you to the both of you so much.
Wow. Welcome to Magic Powers, friends.
You two can now pass the sacrament. It's really
a very important time in your life.
Yeah, so
this is a big rite of passage for you. I'm very proud of you.
You get to you take the little tray. It's handed to you by the priest, right? Who's 16 years old. Yeah. And then you have an assigned area that you're supposed to go to. It's all been planned out. It's choreographed, I suppose.
You do it with military precision.
And then when you hand off the tray to the row that you're at, you then have to awkwardly stand there and try to figure out what to do with your hands. Mm-hmm. This was my dilemma. I had absolutely no idea what to do with my hands. And
Well-
and I felt like the entire congregation was watching me.
You're making it sound better and better.
So welcome to that. It's really awesome. If you'd like to join them, you can do so by going to our website, thankgodimatheist.com, and clicking on the support tab. And then there's options. You can just
Remember,
do
if you
whatever
don't
want.
give us your money, what the hell are you going to do with it?
Exactly.
Don't actually think about that. Just give it to us.
Yeah. And then, as always, Dan, we have our top donor to thank, our Lord and Savior, Austin. Thanks, guys. There's more show coming up.
So, Frank,
Dan.
I wanted to start this segment off by playing a little bit of audio.
Ooh, okay.
And this is from a guy up in at BYU, Idaho. Now, for those of our listeners who don't know, BYU is obviously the Mormon University, Brigham Young University. Its main campus is in Provo, but they have other campuses, one in Hawaii, taking up space in paradise. That pisses me off. And one in Idaho. And this guy, this is basically an audition. I don't think he's I couldn't figure out who the fuck he is. I looked him up, couldn't figure out who he is.
Okay.
He's not identified in the place that I found him. But this is clearly his audition tape to be a general authority in the church. This is clearly him gunning for that position.
I would watch that show, by the way. Who Wants to Be an Apostle? I would totally watch that show.
Yeah, it would be, but maybe you wouldn't after you hear this clip and realize the reality of that situation.
Okay.
Because it's rough. And I am going to, I'm not going to play the whole clip because that would be torture, but we'll play some of it just to give you a little taste.
If any hope to find a particle of evil in one so pure as Joseph Smith, they will find, as the Lord said, that their hope shall be blasted, and their prospects shall melt away as the hoar frost melteth before the burning rays of the rising sun. Any evil they think they may find in Joseph Smith, no matter how widely believed, will be a lie. For he was righteous and pure. Joseph Smith declared, I have a conscience, void of offense towards God and towards all men. I shall die innocent. And he was innocent. He lived great, and he died great in the eyes of God and his people.
So a few things
boy.
about that clip. First of all, if it sounds to you like he's like trying to cry,
That's important.
yeah, that is that's a big Mormon thing.
Yep.
Mormons are very keen. Mormon men especially are very keen to cry over the pulpit, but sustain their toxic masculinity elsewhere. Okay, first off, for those of you who don't know, Joseph Smith was the founder of the Mormon Church back in the mid 1800s, and he was not pure.
Not even close.
There is literally, if you read anything honest about Joseph Smith, it will be instantly and extremely apparent to you that he was not pure, nor had he never done any, nor did he have a conscience free of, what did he say, free of any offense to God or man or whatever.
Okay, Dan.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call you out. That's a lie. That's a lie, Dan.
That's true. He did say, if anybody said that.
He just said it's a lie.
Yeah.
So
okay, fair enough.
I just felt the need to kind of point out how that works.
Yeah.
Right?
It is amazing.
Boy, I mean,
It's just,
he's basically saying also that he was like without sin.
Yeah.
He was a perfect man.
And then he uses a quote from Joseph himself, claiming that he himself is, in fact, without sin, which, if that's not the big, like, he's literally flying the red flag as valiantly as he can.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
The thought that anyone would be completely infallible is absurd, but it's not even a doctrine of the church.
No, it's not.
Like infallibility, that's a Catholic thing. That's not a Mormon thing.
Right. But like, it's also, if you're talking about a figure like Joseph Smith, it's the far easier thing to say than to actually parse out, what he actually did and what you're going to call a lie and what you're not going to call a lie. Which ones were acceptable, like, sins, and which ones were not, right? Because it's like, I mean, the church history book, like the manuals they teach from on Sunday, are going to have stories where Joseph Smith clearly did something that is wrong, right?
Yeah,
like I remember being taught stories where it's like, yeah, that's not really cool. But they always had some way of explaining it away, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, but no, it's better just that he was a perfect man. It's easier. It's far easier.
Well, it's stupid. It literally will just, you're just creating the worst cognitive dissonance known, like available. Because yes, he does. There is a $100 billion organization backing him up, like coming up with spin for why all the things that he did were actually acceptable and not remotely horrific or whatever. But he's still, as you say, he very clearly fucked up a bunch of times, like very, very obviously so.
Right.
We're not going to go into the entire litany of things of bullshit that Joseph Smith said or did, but it was a lot, for everything from marrying children, like not marrying them to other children, but like he himself getting married to a 14-year-old girl, and to, him. He pretended like there was he bought an Egyptian papyrus and then claimed to have translated it. And then later they found out that it was, they figured out how to actually translate them, because when he did it, they didn't know what the hieroglyphs meant. And now we do know what they meant. And it was nothing like what he wrote. That right there is enough to go, okay, something got a little squirrely, because he claimed that this was just a direct translation of what was on that paper. So something ain't right. But yeah, I guess the thing that I wanted to talk about is just how dumb it is to have any form of hero worship. Just in general, you are bound to get your heart broken. If you need a person, a human being, any human being, to be, to live up to some insanely high set of standards, guess who's going to fail you? Because none of us, I know that our listeners think of me as an almost godlike figure, a perfect person in basically every way. I know that.
Just keep
that's
telling
what I'm putting
yourself
out
that,
there.
Dan.
But even I, perfect as I may seem, have foibles. Frank, I'm admitting this.
Oh,
I've made mistakes in my life.
This is a big step for you, Dan.
I'm sure that this is shocking and painful for some of our listeners to hear.
Everybody, this is a first.
Yeah, right. I've had heroes that have fallen, You know,
yeah. Steve
I was
Jobs.
A Will Smith, I was a Will Smith fan, man. He was my guy.
Well, I was going to say, I've heard you complaining about Apple products lately, and
That's true. Well, Apple products are
this whole Steve Jobs thing.
You can't blame Jobs for that. He's dead.
Yeah, I guess so.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, it's just like the idea of worshiping a person or needing a person to be perfect is just doom. It's, the Pope is not going to be perfect. And if you think of him as perfect, it's going to just wreck your brain when you see him making very obvious mistakes. Or when you just see him contradicting the last Pope.
Yeah.
Because they do that all the damn time.
Yeah.
The last Pope's still alive. They're still contradicting each other.
Back and forth.
It's an absurdity. But the problem is that religion breeds black and white thinking.
Yeah.
Religion talks about perfection and holiness and concepts like that.
Right. And yeah, I mean, but we've also sort of, mentioned it, but like, it's not just a religion problem.
No, it's not. But what I'm saying is that the religion is probably the primary training ground for black and white perfection seeking thought.
Okay.
And perfection is the enemy of humanity. The second you're looking for, you have standards too high to be met, it makes sense to you that man is the enemy to God, or that human beings are inherently bad or evil or fallen or destined for hell or whatever. And that's just dumb. The all or nothing thinking leads you to, so many people are just so deeply depressed and riddled with anxiety, trying to live up to a standard that doesn't apply to them. That's nothing to do with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
God gives you sexuality and then commands you never to use it except in the ways that make sense, that he likes. What are you talking about? It's an absurdity on its face, but there it is. I don't know. What do you do with it? I don't know what to do with that. When somebody says that a monster like Joe Smith, a con man huckster, who, just like every other cult leader before and after him, just used his position to fuck a lot of women. When that guy has to be perfect for your theology to make sense to yourself, man, you are in a bad place. Well, if you have anything you want to say about hero worship or Joseph Smith or the leader of the cult that you grew up in.
Oh, I'd love to hear about that.
Feel free to write into us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Seriously, I want to hear about your cults.
Yeah.
I do. Leave us a voicemail message. That'd be another way to do that. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yeah. Hey, go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist. Click the like button.
And if you'd like to join one of our members only lounges, you can do so. Go to our website, thankgodimatheist.com/members only.
Hey, thanks so much to the Red Rock Hot Club for the use of their beautiful music.
And thanks to Gordon Johnston for the use of his music.
And thanks to all of y'all for tuning in. We sure do appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.